Now that we've taken our tour and are familiar with the Flex interface, let's take a look at the various containing elements. They're called columns, flex boxes, and advanced grids. All three of them have a very specific use, and I'll run through them here. Here on the screen, I have my section, and by default, when starting with an empty flex section, you'll be greeted with two flex columns. We can use the plus icons on the left and right sides of the column to add more columns into the flex section. For this example though, we'll delete those and just stick with the two default columns. Columns are containers that can hold your content and will automatically rearrange the content within it in a specific direction, either horizontally or vertically. Let's take a look at what that means. So if I add an icon widget into the column, and then I add a button, we can see that the button widget is sitting on top of the icon widget and they are vertically aligned. Now, if I select the flex column and then take a look at the design panel on the right side, we can see that I have a number of layout options. We have the elements alignment for horizontal or vertical, and we can align the content within the column relative to the column itself. So if I click this center horizontal align button, the content will shift, so now it's center aligned. Below that, we have the stacking direction. This is where you will change the order in which the content in the column is stacked. So by default, it's vertical. But if I click on the horizontal button, we see now that the content has shifted and is now displaying horizontally left to right instead of vertically up and down. And columns will also adjust and resize for each device layout, keeping the content order and alignment and simply resizing the content to properly fit on each layout. We can see that in action if we quickly switch between the breakpoints. Now, this may not always produce the best results, however, in which case you can simply select the specific breakpoint you want to change, select the flex column, and change the stacking direction to better fit that device. Flex boxes can be thought of like containers within columns. They can be added into columns, allowing you to have content within the flex box that has a layout separate from the rest of the column's content. Let's create a layout that, without flex boxes, would be quite difficult, but as you'll see, by utilizing the power of the flex box, it's going to be a breeze. So if we add a flex box into this column, and then we add an icon widget, as well as let's add a button, we can see that it is automatically arranging the elements inside the flex box vertically. Then if we duplicate this flex box, we now have two flex boxes in the column, and we can select the content in the top flex box and delete it. Now with an empty flex box, we can add our new content, which is going to be an image widget. And let's resize that image down, duplicate it, and then add a different image into each one of those widgets. Okay, now we can set the flexbox's stacking direction to horizontal and change the horizontal alignment to use the space around option. And just like that, we have a very unique layout that outside of using flexboxes would be quite difficult to recreate. And each flexbox has its own layout properties set and will resize their content in order to fit the container, which we can see in action if we switch between breakpoints. That's going to do it for the columns and flexboxes in Flex. In our next video, we'll be diving into the advanced grids and discussing how they differ from columns and flexboxes and how to set up and use them.